How's it going?
Good to see you.
Yeah.
How about it?
Tell me about this guy real quick. 93. What's going through his head?
I was living large, man.
Yeah?
It was great. It was, I think we did 2 shows each night as well. Yeah, it was great. It was just like everything was just up, you know.
It was after the long hair stage.
It was after the post long hair. It was great. I was having a blast. It was fantastic. I was 31 years old. It doesn't seem like yesterday. It doesn't just seem like yesterday.
Well, yeah, we're ready for you.
At least my indiscretion.
You're on the stage side, of course.
Good to go.
Count the good. And all I wouldn't change even if I could. I used to stumble back when I was young, and I'm still stumbling, but now it's a lot more fun. I'm going to give this away that we're here at 10:30 in the morning. And I'm going to go out on a limb and just say this is the earliest gig you've ever played.
No, it's
at
not.
The Cactus. Is it
No,
not?
at the Cactus, maybe at the Cactus, but no, I've done some very strange gigs, and some of them have been very early.
Some breakfast shows.
Yeah, radio shows, TV shows, things like that. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of starting at the beginning.
Yeah, man.
And I understand Brenham is your hometown?
I was born in Brenham, and we had a place in the country. It's kind of a farmish thing. We worked it, so I grew up working cattle, and had chickens, and we I was on a tractor when I was in the 3rd grade.
Wow.
Yes, learned how to drive a tractor. And then we moved into the suburbs of Houston, so North Houston. So I had this sort of country life, rural life, learned how to work basically there, and that sort of nature thing, wandering around as a kid, being alone, on your own as a kid, playing by yourself. And then we moved into the city, or suburbs, but that's where I learned how to get in trouble, and that's where I really started writing songs. I was already writing songs in Brenham, but really started writing songs when we moved to Houston.
I think I heard you say one time that your parents did not give you a guitar. Is that
No,
correct?
I think they gave my brother and I a 12-string one time for Christmas. But no, I bought, I had to buy my guitars as a kid. I even had to buy my first guitar. I had to buy it from my brother because he had this guitar, and I loved this guitar, and he caught me playing it, and so he said I'd broken it. And so I had to buy it for $22.
You broke it? You bought it? You remember what it was? What the guitar
Oh,
was?
it was just this,
like a mail order thing?
yeah,
or?
crap Sears and Roebuck thing or whatever. But I loved it. I loved this guitar. And then I bought the guitar that when I was in the 7th grade, I bought my first real guitar. That was a Gibson. But I had to pay for it. Like my dad didn't. He was like, that's why we worked though. So I had cows and chickens and all that stuff, and so we were selling cattle, and I was mowing our pastures, but we also mowed other people's pastures. We worked. That's what we did.
So were you straight out of high school to UT?
Actually, I went to Texas State, which is Southwest Texas at the time. So I went there for a year and a half.
Okay.
And I was oddly enough, I was trying to clean my life up at that point.
Clean it up from what?
Well, I had a drug and alcohol problem
Okay.
when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Like bad, and I got in a lot of trouble. And I just wanted, I was just, high school, you see it. All it takes is to watch one friend wreck a car, and you go, oh, wow, this hurts. It's like, this is going to get you in trouble. So I was trying to get back organized in my life, and just didn't want to be in trouble anymore. But all the music was happening here, so I wanted to be around clubs, and so I came here with a friend of mine who's still one of my best friends. We transferred up here.
So as a sophomore.
I guess so. It'd be after 3 semesters. So yeah, January
business,
of sophomore. Yeah, oddly enough, I was a business major because I didn't know what to do. I'd never met a professional musician until I was 19.
And why did you pick business?
The
So my
start
dad was a businessman, and I didn't know. I just thought, well, I'll figure. I wanted to be involved with music, but I didn't know how music worked. Until I started playing clubs here, and really like Nancy Griffith was one of the first professional musicians that I probably ever had a conversation with.
Wow.
Or like real like,
That's a good one to
how
start
does it
with.
work? How does it work?
Yeah.
You know, what's the deal?
What did she teach you, or what do you take away from that conversation?
I'll tell you, one of the best things I learned from Nancy was to write a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the other big lesson I learned from Nancy Griffith was there was this club just north of campus. It used to be called Folkville. There was a club there called Folkville. And I was opening for Nancy. And I was sitting in the parking lot. It was early for sound check. I was sitting in the parking lot, and Nancy drove up in her, I don't know, van maybe or something. She drove up and she unloaded a sound system. Nancy Griffith unloaded her own PA.
You're probably not a huge person.
No, she was a very small
Yeah.
person, and it was a very large PA, and it was very just big speakers. I mean, the speakers were probably up to her shoulders, you know. And I watched her unload this thing, and I was like, "Sell your PA. If you don't have a PA, you can't bring a PA." And so
Yeah.
I had one. I sold it like the next week. I went to Ray Hennig's Heart of Texas and sold it.
Yep.
I was like, I don't want to be carrying a PA, and so. That was one of the big, this a weird lesson, but it was kind of, I look at it like as a work lesson. It's like, if you make yourself available for those things you don't want to do, you'll wind up doing them.
She's looking down in approval right now. I'm sure.
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, and then I went on the road with Nancy quite a bit. Well, not a whole lot, but I did do a tour in California with her. It was pretty forming of me for my sort of work life.
At UT, tell me about your accounting professor.
Yeah, I had this accounting professor because I didn't know, so I just started taking classes and had this accounting professor who I don't remember his name. He might still be around. I don't know. He was, and it was first semester accounting, and he called me up after class one day and he said, "Hey man, you know, come see me at the front of the class." So I go see him after class lets out, and he goes, "So you're not cutting it, like you're not going to make it." And he goes, "This is really easy." He goes, you haven't even hit like the hard classes. And if you can't do this," and I was like, "Well, you know, to be honest with you, I can't really add very well. Just my brain doesn't do that very well." And he goes, "You're not going to cut it." He goes, "So what else do you like to do?" I said, "Well, really, I want to be a songwriter. You know, but I don't know how to do that yet." And I said, "But I just like," he goes, "What's your favorite class you ever took?" And I told him about this class I took at Texas State or Southwest Texas. That was this weird sort of history culture course. I said, "I loved it. I aced it. It was like awesome. I loved it." He goes, "You should go see my girlfriend. She's in this thing called American Studies." And he goes, there's not many people that take it. And he goes, "But as far as I can tell, no one over there wants a job." And I went, "That's for me." I'll love
Sign
it.
me up.
So I went over there and I just walked in. I mean, there was only like 30 undergraduate students and maybe 20 graduate students. It was really tiny, and it was like a little home within university, within UT. It was this small group of very eccentric people, and they became very formative for me. These teachers primarily.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was Bill Stott, who I took autobiography courses with Bill, so I had 3 independent studies with him where I just wrote autobiography. The other one was Jeff Meikle, who is, he just retired. And Jeff taught design, industrial design, and design courses. And it was the first time I'd ever experienced art, like art from a thinking perspective, or thinking about the world around me and sort of a design idea. And then another guy named Bill Getzman, who was a teacher here, who's very, very, very formative for me. And he taught Western like Western images in mythology, not like American Western stuff, where I learned about the paintings of, you know, Thomas Moran and all this stuff that had to do with Western iconography. It was a big deal for me. And so those guys were key for me.
And I think I've heard you say before that this American studies is something you carry with you and use
Absolutely.
it every day.
It's like the
What's an example of
well,
how you
it's
would
like
use that?
first I think it was amazing. It was an amazing lucky thing for me because it was exactly what I'm interested in, you know. And I just stumbled into it. And so you know, American Studies to me, I would describe it as it's like a 360-degree look at any event. You know, if you look at the Depression, well, you have to look at what happened before the Depression and after the Depression. But looking at it in terms of art, architecture, movies, writing, all this stuff, you can look at art, you can look at it from all these different angles, see what led up to it, what was happening, what happened during the Depression, and then how did that affect art, architecture, you know. So it's this look at culture. And you can't understand America without understanding Europe. You can't understand if you don't understand European history, you don't really understand what happened and why we're all here. You know, we weren't born here. I wasn't born, you know, my people weren't born here. They were born in Germany and Scotland, you know, and why'd they come here? Well, you have to understand that. And what did they bring over the architecture with them? You know, you can go to Fredericksburg, Texas and look around like that's Germany, you know, it's like,
Right.
So that, I just loved it. What I came out of it with was I learned how to write, but also learned how to look at an opposing idea and hold both ideas. My idea, what I think is right, but somebody else's idea is right as well.
Perspective.
And so how to hold those two things at the same time. That was huge. And then how to look at the world around me, how to look at architecture, how to look at writing, how to look at culture, and see not only my place in it, but the place of others and the historical reasonings behind why they're the way they are, why I'm the way I am. Both are valid.
Does it maybe inform the imagery that you use in songwriting?
It informs the imagery. I think it informed more than anything an appreciation of the imagery that I already held. You know, I don't know that my imagery is that different now than it was then. It's the same kind. I use the same, you know, it's been voiced a lot of different ways, but songwriters, artists, I can say for songwriters, you really only write 3 or 4 songs. Your life is based around 3 or 4 stories, you know? And you just tell them in different ways, it's kind of what you have to explore. So you keep exploring the same thing. So it showed me that, like I heard that in school, college, about writers. I was like, oh my God, like 3 or 4? It's boring.
Can I get a 5th?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. And, but it also, when I recognized later on, 10 years later, I went, oh, wow, that's what they said. Oh, wow. And then it helped me appreciate the difference between urban and rural thinking, urban and rural approach, and that I had both. I got lucky in that my parents did move to the suburbs. So I definitely understand sort of rural thinking and that, but I totally love cities.
Yeah.
I love them. But I carry it with me to this day. I think I use my degree. I mean, my last sort of project was called Western Skies, and to me, it's a textbook case in American studies because it's multimedia, it's expanding, it's looking at the West, West Texas, but also the American West. It looks at mythology, current personal mythologies, and it's pulling all these things and synthesizing them in a perspective. I had Michael Adams, a writing professor. One day I turned in a blue book with my writing assignment, but I'd written a song about it as well. I handed them both in, just whatever.
Trying for extra credit, maybe.
Yeah, probably just schmooze the professor, you know. And because Michael was very very cool. He was a cool guy, you know. And he called me up the next day after class, and he goes, "Good move." That was a smooth move. And he goes, "I liked it." He goes, "I liked it. I liked both of them." And he said, "I'll make you an offer." And the offer was to turn in. I could turn in kind of whatever I wanted to. I had to turn it in at the same time that other people did. And I had to come to class, I had to pay attention, do all the readings, but I could kind of turn in whatever I wanted inside of the blue book, but there had to be a cassette with it. And the song had to relate to this thing. And they had to make a bigger picture. And he goes, "I know songs, so I'm going to critique your songs too." Because he was well versed in sort of the Texas singer-songwriter thing, which is exactly where I came from. And I was like, wow, awesome. Because it was like it became super easy. Then it was like, awesome, I just write a song, then I write a story about it, or I write a story and then I write a song about it. So it was my first experience with multimedia things, which Western Skies is, you know, and I've done this, you know, other art things that are like multimedia stuff. So Michael was key to that. But what it really was somebody went, I believe in you, and I'm gonna help you. It's pretty big.
That was a turning point.
It was pretty massive, actually, having someone who's not my dad, not my parent. I love my parents, but not my family, not a traditional teacher structure or authority figure going, "Hey, you're cool. I see something."
Yeah.
So it's pretty big.
I've heard you said that you wanted to be a rock star. But at one point, things kind of fell apart, and you went to kind of a dark place.
Yeah.
What did that look like? Why did it
Which
fall
one?
apart?
The going up or the coming down?
The coming down part, and then how did you turn it around?
Well, it happened sort of after my record, Little Victories, which came out in '93. And that did really well. I mean, Little Victories had a top 10 hit on it, and VH1, and
Loving Arms?
Loving Arms
Yeah.
is top 10.
To your loving arms, your loving arms, your loving arms, your sweet, sweet loving arms. To get to your loving arms, your loving arms, your loving arms, your sweet, sweet loving arms.
And then, you know, record company things happen, and I was out. And I really, I got really lucky early on. I got signed. I think I got signed before I was really ready. I wasn't fully formed as an artist, a musician. I got really super lucky, and then worked hard, of course, but, you know, that doesn't matter. Even talent doesn't matter. And then, yeah, it all fell apart, and no one prepares young artists that it's going to end. The smartest thing I was ever told was by a record company guy that I did a lot of work with. He goes, "Listen, man, you need to have a career in spite of us." Like, to tell a 28-year-old kid that, 29-year-old, that I thought you guys loved me, you know?
What did
And
he mean?
What did he mean?
Yeah.
He means that we care about you as long as you're doing well. As soon as you stop doing well, you're out.
Yeah.
You know, and nobody ever tells artists that, young artists that, you know. Anyway, it was a big blow to the ego, man. It was the first time in my life I'd really had sort of a setback like that. So, and my life was really spinning out of control on all fronts. Married, young kid, and I just tanked. Just everything fell apart. It was like this big, in 1 week, like over a couple of days, my agent called and said he's leaving the company, so I didn't have an agent. I go to couples therapy and tell my wife that I'm gonna ask for a divorce. This is over a 2-day period. And then my manager calls and said, "Hey, Columbia's agreed to let you out of your record deal." So everything that I had before that, my identity, my ego, my sort of income, my everything, just kind of fell apart over the course of 2 days, 3 days. And it was really kind of brutal. And it just led to me, I took a year off, I learned how to be a father, and just stopped for a while. And I don't know that, my career never really got back on that same track.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some wandering around in the wilderness years. And I've described it before saying I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because I think if I'd kept going, more than likely I would have really wound up damaging myself. And no one knows, but I learned a lot, and it wasn't the path that I saw myself. This the way things worked out wasn't the path that I saw myself. It was better.
Wow.
It was better. And I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now, probably. I wouldn't have done all the kind of radically diverse things that I've done over my career. I wouldn't have done it had any of them gone extraordinarily well.
Right.
Yeah, because nothing was that successful. It was good. I made a living. I did cool stuff. And I've been like luckier than 99% of the people. But I wouldn't have had to go out and explore as much as I had to go out and explore, which I realized is it's where my sort of, it's my strength. One of my strength is kind of going out and trying new stuff.
So you wrote a book, of course, as you know. You wrote a book called The Habit of
Noticing.
And subtitle, Using Creativity to Make a Life and a Living. But I think maybe there was a manuscript before that had a different title called The Trick.
It was first called The Trick. Surviving
a Life in Creativity.
Right.
And I'm wondering...
You've really done your research.
But I wonder if that's key to what you're doing here at UT right now, teaching kids how to
totally
survive a life in creativity.
Well, it's not only, I think I'm very interested in the intersection of art and work. That's a non-sexy way to talk about it, but how does, and I think it comes from a feeling that everyone is creative. Everyone has something. I just came from my chiropractor's office. Oh my God, talk about an artist. She's amazing. Her dad was too, it's like, so everyone's creative. And a lot of people have ideas.
You believe that everyone is creative?
Yeah, everyone's creative at something. Yeah. I mean, it could be that you're just really good at gardening, or you're really good at driving, or you're really good, and you're a really good parent. It's all art. It's all creativity. It's just like, how do you get through the day? Everyone has something, maybe a couple of things or multiple things that they're very, very uniquely poised to do. And the difference in people that sort of bring that really fully into their lives are people that put in time and effort to nurture that thing. And that's where the work comes in. And if you can marry those up, it's possible to have this really interesting life. You can actually get paid to do it. Not everyone gets paid to do it, but that shouldn't be the goal. But it's possible. So I'm just really curious and interested in that thing. I'm interested in people that overcome adversity, and because I think they're the best adults. And but I just feel like that is a message that I wasn't given. I knew how to work. I didn't trust my creativity early on. So I'm very interested here in my time at UT is showing students that it's possible to be creative. It's okay. And it's okay to be a little weird, a little different, like wacky. We need more wacky people in the world.
In Austin?
Well, Austin's actually pretty normal. You want to see wacky. I've got some other places you should go. There's like, they say keep Austin weird.
Yeah.
Nah, I got some other places I'll let you
got
show
some
you.
ideas.
But I think like to show them, okay, there's a place for you in the world. You're a little weird. Well, all the cool people are. And it's also possible if you want to get paid to do this thing that you're really interested in, it's possible. But there's steps that you have to take. There's work things and work ideas that I've just thought a lot about over the last 40 years of how you set your life up. And a lot of it is about, in order to have a sustainable life in creativity, your life has to be sustainable. Your life has to be workable, and that there's a lot of pieces that go in together, and it can start when you're young. So I'm very interested in that intersection.
As you know, we went and listened to you about 2 weeks ago at the College of Fine Arts.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they look back on that and think that hour was such a good investment for me.
Thank you. Carry a notebook all the time, or your phone, your notes section. Just make it a daily practice. Like, okay, where's the song today? Write something. Notice something every day. A good attitude. You smile. You're on time. You say, I'm going to be here at 2. You're there at 1:50. You know, people love that. Adults love that. I owned a bus at one point. I bought the Fabulous Thunderbirds bus. Oh my God, what a mistake. What a nightmare, man. I was doing gigs to support my bus. I'm not kidding. I was doing gigs to support the bus, which I didn't want. Very easy to fall into those traps. Now I know if I could rent my clothes, I would. I want very few attachments. It allows me a lot of mobility. The only way I could know that is by getting attachments and realizing what that was doing to my life. Put it on your calendar. I'm going to write this idea today. And practice focusing on one idea at a time. I got too many ideas myself. So I just go like, okay, today's not the day for that. I'm doing this idea today. And it's hard, but you can train yourself. You can work within that ADHD thing. You know, what time of day is best for you? What time of day is calmest? Okay, try to write at that time of the day. ADHD is a blessing for songwriters because, that doesn't work? Cool, we'll do this. Oh, that didn't work? Let's do this. Oh, that didn't work? How about this? Squirrel! It's like, it's fine, okay? Learn to harness it as an energy source, not as a burden. I don't work with my friends. Because I would rather work with badass people. Some of them I'm really friends with, but I don't work with my friends. I work with the best people I can afford. Pay them whatever they want to get paid. It's quicker, it's better. You don't have to baby them. You hired them. You can fire them. You can't fire a friend. It's hard to fire a friend. I've been thinking a lot about curating our own life. Like we curate our own life, and that's what we pay attention to. And what we don't pay attention to, we're curating it. So what are you listening to? What do you not listen to? Like I'm really careful about what I listen to, because some things are too similar to me. I don't want to listen to that. God, it's boring. I want to listen to stuff that isn't me. And the way that magic happens is you put in the work. That's the way magic happens. Accidents happen, everyone gets lucky every now and then, but the way that you replicate luck is hard work, and the way that you create magic is steps. But I also see it from the flip side too.
Yeah.
That for the students who are more interested in traditional work paths, say business or whatever. There's a level of not recognizing their creativity that I hope to reach them too. To go, you're in marketing, or you're in accounting, or you're in whatever, you're a history major, whatever. There's a level of creativity that you already have, and you might also like painting. It's possible to bring those together.
Yeah.
It's possible to work that way. And even if you paint, it's possible to keep painting. You might get a job, but it's also possible to marry those two interests and be useful in the world. I think that's what we all need. And I think that's what a lot of students are looking, okay, I can do a job. And a lot of kids, they would just want to make money, which is cool, I get it. But there's also, I think there's a huge interest in how do I lead a life that means something. And meaning comes from interest.
I mean, we're in a society that rewards specialization, and that's kind of what you're
Yeah.
getting at. Like, it seems like there's room in one life to have multiple things going on as your
100%,
life
and
demonstrates.
everyone does anyway. I mean, you know, if you have a family, you're pretty much a worker guy until you hit the driveway,
Right.
and then it's like if you're paying attention, and then you got to switch gears. You know, so it's like, and you're
Creativity
a
can
family
come in
in both,
that
you
one
know.
too, yeah.
So, but I think that the most interesting people that I come in contact with are the people who have 2 or 3 sort of eras in their life. Those are the most fascinating people, and the most fascinating artists the people that are on my hero wall in my studio. All of them have had these really crazy careers, massively creative, but they're rule breakers. They're unique in themselves.
Give me three of those people on that wall.
Chuck Close, the artist, Chuck Close, big influence. Tom Waits, Bob Dylan, Rodney Crowell, Ray Benson from Asleep at the Wheel, huge influence on me. Muhammad Ali,
Okay. So
Yeah.
not just musicians.
no, not just
Yeah.
musicians.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm actually probably more influenced by people who aren't musicians.
Really?
Yeah. Not like
You've done this kind of thing before. I noticed in Oklahoma at a couple
Right.
of different institutions.
well,
One
just
in
Oklahoma. It was
Stillwater.
all Oklahoma State.
Oh, it was all
Yeah,
Oklahoma
Oklahoma
State.
State. Yeah.
I just wonder what you learned during that you are able to apply here.
Yeah, well, I was brought into I was artist in residence within the School of Entrepreneurship in Oklahoma State. Learned a couple things. First off, that was my first experience of working within the university system, and I realized that it's not like any other organisms on the planet. They have their own time zone. I come from the music business, which is like, oh, you knock on the door, nobody answers the door, you just kick the door down. It doesn't really work here.
Yeah.
You know, you don't do that. And so I had to learn that.
More expensive doors.
Yeah, it's more expensive doors, and there's a guard on the other side. But then I learned that there's that's the first place that I learned like what I've learned in the music business and in making a living as an artist is very applicable to other fields of other areas. That's where the book, the Habit of Noticing book, started with lectures that I was doing there, where I was just started telling stories. When God, Rodney Crowell told me like never get too comfortable, always be hungry. And it was just came up, and this friend of mine up there who brought me in, he goes, you should write those things down, because that's what the students are really digging, that stuff. So I learned that just like I learned that just by working, just being myself, and my diverse interests and my diverse background, it is kind of unique in that. And I mean, there's other people like me, but I just have seen some things that it applies across the board. It's not that different. Business is business. All business, there's a degree of show business in it. Everything.
Show business.
Yeah, it's called show business,
Yeah.
and but it's like, it's not really that different than selling cattle or selling a house. It's kind of the same thing. Or building a career as a this or that or that. It's all kind of the same thing. I learned that there's a bunch of students, I call them kids, students, who are really seeking, and they are on a path based on their sort of parental information and culture. And they may not have ever met anybody who's outside of that sort of track. And they sign up to study a thing, and they're not really interested in it. What they're really interested in is over here, and they've never met anybody that goes, oh, that's pretty cool. You should go do that. Or you're kind of weird. Tell me about that. Oh, you ever thought about doing this for a living? And I think so that was key. And so I learned a lot about how to navigate that and about the usefulness of that thinking. And I just really kind of liked being around students like that.
Will you play a song for us?
Yeah, I'd be happy
All
to.
right.
Ain't nothing funny about getting older. Soul aches, body feels a strain. Past is heavy on my shoulder. Tomorrow comes on like a train. If these days are really numbered, if there's an end to the line, I'm gonna love you like I'm running out of time. Count the days that I've wasted chasing some vision of what I thought I should be. It's just another green grass story. Thought it was freedom, it was change without a key. If these nights are really numbered, if there's an end to the wine, I wanna love you like I'm running out of time. Well, I wanna love you like I'm running out of time. Warm wind blowing off the Gulf Coast tonight. Baby powder moon is in the sky. And me laying here talking about nothing. I see that sparkle in your eye. I know these moments, they are numbered, so I'm not gonna let it pass us by. No, I wanna love you like I'm running out of time. I wanna love you like I'm running out of time. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.